Hey, Aaron, I just want to real quick before the episode of the podcast today. I want to real quick mention, so a couple of days ago from when and you will be hearing this is the actor William Hurt, who played General Thaddeus Ross in the MCU, passed away, and I would like to say um my heart goes out to his family, but also, I want to say that a disclaimer: in future episodes, I will probably be talking about the future of his character or General Thaddeus Ross, but I will probably not be mentioning much further about the actor due to some things that he's done in his life. I will not mention those things here, but if you want to know, you can Google it. Um, Again, as I said, the my heart goes out to his family, and um, just because the guys I did some awful things in his life, I've does not mean that anyone should go after his family for anything that he did. So, just want to put that out there. Thank you for listening and hope you enjoy the regular show. Hey everyone, welcome to Smash Trivia. I'm your host, Smash Trivia John. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram by searching Smash Trivia to follow everything happening with me. I'll be the one with the big old green head in the profile picture. I'm so excited to get into this. This is the Gamma Analysis. Basically, in this series, I'm going to review everything Hulk, all the movies and TV shows, and maybe at some point I could get into comics, but that's a while off. Hope you enjoy Smash Trivia Presents the Gamma Analysis. I want to ask everyone listening if they could please do something for me. Please share the hell out of this podcast with all your friends, because I really want to get the Gamma Analysis to be big enough that by the time She-Hulk comes out, maybe I could become press and either get the first episode early or be invited to the premiere, or even just get one of the press goodie bags. For this episode, I'm going to review The Incredible Hulk 77, Episode 7. Just so you know, this is not a critical podcast. And every episode of mine, I always try to put out positive vibes. So while I will mention a couple things I don't like, I won't dwell on them. And the majority of my review will be things I liked in it. With that being said, I do have a co-host today, and I don't force them to follow the same code of positivity if he doesn't want to. Our co-host today is Keith, aka KeithSketches, aka Filmkritter with a K. I have a trivia question for you. This year's anniversary of Hulk's first appearance in comics is how many years?
Okay. Carry the 5. I'm gonna guess 57 years.
Well,
no, that's way too short. Wait. Can I give the re-answer? Redo?
Okay.
77 years.
Okay.
That's probably way too far. Is this like Price is Right rules, or like if I go over, I'm wrong? Do I get? There's no money involved.
No, there's no money.
Never mind.
I will. Now it's the answer to that later in the show. I can say this is definitely one of the hardest questions I've probably done on here.
I'm trying to think of like the comic, like the show was popular that we're watching anyways in the 70s. Was I know it came way after he was introduced in the comic books, but I want to say it was probably mid 60s. So I could be. I'm not gonna. I won't question anymore. You wanted to talk about something that came out this last week, right?
Yes. So, the She-Hulk. We got a first look at how She-Hulk is going to look, and I, for one, really like how she's going to look in it. I think they did an incredible job. It looks exactly like what she looks like in the comics. What did you think of it, Keith?
Well, I love this actress from Orphan Black. I can't wait for her portrayal of She-Hulk, and I'm excited to see that they kept her face very much like in the comics. She-Hulk doesn't look like the Hulk in the sense that she's not like, she's a little bit more humanoid. I don't know how to, like, a Hulk is a humanoid, obviously, shape and everything, but she looks more like her non-Hulk self, and she stays in Hulk form more often. and she's got the big flowing curly hair, and I think that they did a great job. I'm very excited for this. I noticed her Under Armour shirt kind of reminds me a bit of the what's it called, the quantum realm outfits that the Avengers wore. That was all apparently was all CGI done after the movie's like post production got a hold of things. They were like, we're not sure what the suits are going to look like until they shot all the scenes, and then they just spent a lot of money making fake suits on them all. But yeah, it looks a lot like that, which is kind of cool. But it's the right colors and they're in the right spots, so I'm excited.
I think it's gonna be amazing. That you were saying that She-Hulk, she's not exactly like Hulk in the comics, and where she says as her in her Hulk form more often, and just get a bit of an overview for anyone who's never read any of the She-Hulk comics. So a few different differences. One, she can turn into Hulk at will. She doesn't have to get angry for it, and also, though she's not as strong as Hulk, she keeps all of her intelligence while she's in the Hulk form, and also she can break the fourth wall and talk to the comic book writers who are writing the comics, and by extension, most likely she's going to be able to do that again in the show. And they used her breaking the fourth wall in when she was first introduced, actually as a way to make a comment on the rampant sexism of the time period, and they use that to talk about the issues. And that's also the reason why she was named She-Hulk, is as they're making fun of people who would think of that as just that's what she should be called, because she's the she version of this thing. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. So and so I just wanted to put that out there for anyone who doesn't know a lot about She-Hulk, and also I just wanted to give my thoughts about the new suit, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I don't know much about Tatiana Maslany. I haven't seen Orphan Black, but just based on looks, I think that she's going to look perfect.
Do you know anything about the plot of Orphan Black?
No, I don't.
So she ends up playing doubles of herself, and I think I want to say that by the end of this series, or by the total of the series, there's probably like 5 or 6 different versions of this character. So she's constantly bopping around playing different personalities. Her talent is beyond compare. And as you say, if the comic book, if they're going to do what I know the MCU is very good at, and do justice to the comic book and why it was created, the breaking of the fourth wall, and just the fact that it was the first time tackling issues and making light of and kind of tackling issues of sexism, doing it then when it came out, my God, I can't imagine what the show is going to be like and how they're going to tackle it now. And that's very exciting. I hope they make everybody proud, not just the ladies, but I want to see the ladies. See, again, that could be sexist. I don't know, but that seems demeaning to me. I shouldn't have said that. Can we rewind? Can we cut that? Women in general, I think that they'll make both women and men who are fans of women. Anyways, so yes, I'm excited. She-Hulk's gonna be great.
And one last thing. I've heard a lot of people try to say, hey, she's a ripoff of Deadpool because she can break the fourth wall. Actually, she broke the fourth wall before Deadpool did, because she came in before Deadpool.
That is so typical of people assuming that men did things first. Women's innovations get buried in the weeds all the time. Look it up. Thing. Look that idea up. Anyway, I'm excited, man.
All right, so before we get into this review, we have a couple of things Firstly, I highly recommend watching the episode before you listen to this review, because though I do try to talk about most of the scenes, I don't always end up talking about everything, and it's also you're just probably not gonna make like a whole lot of sense with, and if you haven't actually seen the episodes of the show. And for the podcast that I will be shouting out this week is a new podcast that I that just started I think this week, like as of our recording. It is the Gamma Charge podcast. It's another Hulk podcast. There's finally another Hulk podcast, and I'm very excited to keep listening to them going forward. I've listened to their first episode where they talked about the first three issues of Hulk comics that were ever made, and it was a pretty fun podcast. So I highly recommend checking them out if you want some more Hulk content. And Keith has signed that he would like to let everyone know about an upcoming project of it is. So take it away, Keith.
Yes. So I am starting a podcast with one of my oldest friends. She's not old. I mean, we've been friends for a while. Liz and I are going to do a podcast about the five that we consider the five National Lampoon's vacation movies, and we're going to call it Ordinary Everyday Fools. And that's one thing that Clark Griswold in the first 5 minutes of the first movie claims he is not. And everything goes downhill from there, as you can imagine. But I can't wait to come out with it. It's coming out later this month. So keep your eyes out or your ears out or however the hell you look for podcasts. And I gotta say, Smash John, you look at you supporting and repping a possibly competitor. Going with the, what is it? The Gamma. What's the other podcast?
The Gamma Charge.
The Gamma Charge podcast could end up being one of our top competitors for Hulk podcasts. And look at you just being humble and gracious and putting them out there and talking about them. I could not be more proud and honored to be sharing the screen and the mic with you, sir.
Well, thank you. And I, for one, am very excited to listen to your podcast when you release your first episode later this month. So
thank you, man. Have you ever seen the vacation movies?
Yes, I have.
Oh.
I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen Vegas Vacation, but I think I've seen all the others.
The one that people see without seeing any of the others usually is Christmas Vacation, which makes sense because it's just a Christmas movie on its own. You don't need to see the other four.
Yeah.
But we'll get you to watch Vegas right before that episode comes out. That'll be episode 4. I'm excited. Want to hear your thoughts.
So are you guys, after those 5 episodes, is that all you guys are going to do with the podcast, or are you guys it's going to have something else you guys are going to do after that?
So far, my game plan with it, I'm going to be taking the producer helm of it, and Liz will definitely be helping out on that front as well. But basically, I want to produce 5 very seriously well-contained episodes that we're going to make video for, we're going to make artwork for, all this stuff, and just keep it bite-sized for now. And if we really enjoy doing it, and because we both work full-time, she's also in school, we're going to try to just kind of do it little bit by little bit. And I know that putting out as much content as possible is important to build the audience, but we want to make sure that the first 5 episodes are really, home runs. And then if we enjoy doing it and it doesn't drain us dry, then we'll think of another franchise. But she's a huge fan and I'm a huge fan of old comedies, so probably start somewhere similar in another franchise that both makes us both really happy.
I mean, it's not a lot of the films probably won't be nearly as good of quality, but you guys could continue with doing other films that were made under the National Lampoon's label.
That's true. And there's a great many stories around how the National Lampoon's not only magazine but film franchise began, and it's a really cool history. But
I think there's
yeah, I
even
don't
a
know if
film
there's
about it, how it was made.
there. Yep, it's on not on Netflix, and it's a title I always mess up because it's such a ridiculous title, but it's about the founders of the National Lampoon's magazine, and one of the key founders, unfortunately, passed away really early on in the whole franchise. I think they only got to make Animal House, and then worked on Caddyshack, and then passed away. So their legacy continues on, but they're no longer part of the ride anymore. So yeah. it's a real shame.
Yeah, that definitely is. All right, so let's get into this review. So this episode was titled 747, and the name that David uses in this episode, and he actually of the two, he doesn't actually give a name in the other episode that we are recording tonight.
Oh yeah, no, in episode 8, I noticed that. I looked for it.
Yeah, there's no name, and then also the episode after that, though we're not recording that tonight, there's also no name given in that one either.
Oh
so
my
I
God.
think interesting. But the name they uses in this one was David Brown. And so the first thing I wrote down was that after calling a gamma expert in Chicago and finding out that he's leaving for Europe at 5 p.m., David decides he's going to take the first flight to Chicago from San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then we see a probable bad guy, and we know, and I wrote that before I'd watched the rest of the episode, so I know now that he is a bad guy. Talking to I wrote possible bad lady, which I said possible versus probable, just because I thought it's more likely he's bad and she's just kind of there along for the ride.
It's how she reacted to the gun.
Yeah,
she saw his gun. She's like, "What's that for?"
She's bad, but not as bad as him, it seems. And they're talking about a drug and being on a yacht on the Mediterranean, and something happening to Flight 14. So one thing that I found interesting, I feel like this episode should have been titled Flight 14. They never mentioned the 747 in the episode. I think that's supposed to be the type of plane. Yeah. I'm guessing that it is. But I feel like it would have been a better title doing just Flight 14. Is it?
And I think that because of the planes and the history of planes since then, the idea of a 747 is no longer has the hype that it did at the time. But these planes were insanely popular at the time, because the first flight of a 747 was in like 1969, and so this is the first plane that had twin aisles. It's the first plane that was nicknamed a jumbo jet. It's the first one called a wide body aircraft. And so they were really popular at the time, at the 70s and early 80s. So it's kind of a perfect match for the biggest plane and is going to carry the biggest hero. Yes. So it's kind of funny that way, but I get what you mean about, like, nowadays, like Flight 14 would have made a lot more sense, because in that time that plane was such a, and I'd be interested to know how much money or maybe they just like gave them a free set to work on or something to give them publicity and kind of fuel each other. No pun intended. But as soon as this episode started, I got chills. I really love this show now. And as soon as the music started and the recap and everything, I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited to be watching this again. Oh, yeah. And when that dramatic zoom in on the newspaper, when he gets off the phone, yeah, all my eyes could see was Tut exhibit heads east. And I was like, oh, this is going to be the Mummy episode. And it didn't make any sense at the time, but yeah, that's all I can focus on. Yeah. But we know that Stephanie's got a drug, Phil's got a gun. Continue.
So there's another thing I had from that scene is, and this is one criticism I actually have on the show. So I think this is the third time in 7 episodes that a type of drug is the MacGuffin of the for the episode. I feel like they could have thought of something else.
That's fair. That's fair.
Uh,
He's dealing with a lot of humans, and I feel like they made like a doctor and deadly drugs. They just saw him. That's the only thing that he's going to be really good at identifying while in banner form. Anyways.
So next thing I had was that David takes a cab to the airport. Happily, this cab drive went a lot better than the last time he had a cab drive.
Yeah, keep your shirt on. I remember that guy.
Oh my god. The next thing I wrote was I was surprised. I said David didn't have issues getting on the plane with the fact that he's supposed to be dead, and I've always thought that you needed an ID to get on a plane because I hadn't known that before 9/11 you could fly without an ID. Mainly because I was born just a couple months after 9/11.
Yeah.
But when I was looking up if you needed an ID or not in the 70s to be on a plane, I found one thing I think is very interesting. So the average cost of a ticket to fly in the 70s was $550, which in today's money is $3,850. Holy shit, that's expensive to fly.
Damn.
Like,
Wow.
It's surprising that David had that much money.
Well, I mean, you got to think, how long did he work for that zoo? You know, he's picking up gorilla shit. That stuff, you get paid good money for that, right?
Yeah.
I know a couple people we could ask in the Discord.
Mm-hmm. So the next thing I was that the flight attendant says a variation of the infamous line where with I wouldn't want to leave you behind and make you angry at our airlines. I like that.
I wrote down that he gave her this look that was like so cheeky and knowing, and it looked as though he wanted to say, I guess you've seen my show. Like it felt so much like he wanted to break that fourth wall, but that'll be She-Hulk's thing.
Oh man. Yeah. All right. So that's the next thing I have was I wrote that no, this did not end up being true. At the time I was very much thinking this would be. I wrote that I'm guessing this flight attendant is another love interest that goes nowhere just based on the fact that she looks very similar to the previous ones. But it's happily that it actually wasn't for this one.
Yeah, me too. I was very glad that it did not have the same, like, hey, here's a love interest that doesn't, like you say, go anywhere. It's always a pretty lady in her 30s or younger, and she's, you know, just his type, and somehow they've got a week-long relationship that has gone somewhere but doesn't go anywhere.
And they always have the same colored hair.
Yeah, very true. Weird. And then, of course, the big twist: Stephanie's a flight attendant and Phil's a co-pilot.
Yeah,
it's an inside job, John.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a. So the next thing I wrote was that I bet Mr. McIntyre is gonna regret stealing my coffee.
Well, you jumped way ahead. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I honestly did not get nearly as many notes for this episode as I normally do. I don't know why. I didn't find nearly as much to talk about this episode. But yeah,
I just have a couple of notes before that happens. Okay. But it's I said essentially that I love how very quickly David hits it off with the other passengers. Like it's this episode telling us, okay, you need to care about every innocent bystander on this plane, because in any plane drama, everybody you've met is now at risk. And that's, you know, as a whole, you need to care about this tiny little community on this thing flying in the sky. And then the kid and the traveling salesman were one of the things I couldn't get into. Like you're saying, you might not have had many notes for this episode. That part, for example, I didn't get the relevance of it at the time. Like the kid's really into planes. That's great. The salesman's kind of an overactor. Found him kind of annoying, but
No.
he's like hitting on his mom a little bit. And then he's
Yeah,
way too
it
emotive
was
when the mom's not
like,
into it.
yeah, I noticed it. It was like, it was really weird where like he was kind of hitting on her, but at the same time, it was like he wasn't trying very hard.
No,
It
he
was
gave up
weird.
super easy, but he was like, he was so bothered by the fact that this woman who just the kid explains she just saw his dad. She's not happy. She's not in a good mood. And the fact that the mom isn't immediately into this balding shoe salesman who's chatting up her teenage boy is very shocking to him. He's like,
Yeah.
oh man, she could at least throw me, a bone here. And it's like, no.
So one thing I was thinking about when immediately when he sat down, do you think that was actually his seat, or if he or did he tell them it was his seat just to get close to her?
I mean, I'd rather go with that narrative than the idea that he sat in that seat to get close to Kevin. So
Oh,
I'm good with that.
He said that was the seat that he was supposed to be at, and I'm wondering whether it actually was or if it wasn't.
I don't know. It very well could be. I mean, if that's a time when you can get on a plane to anywhere and not use your ID, then of course that's a time where you can just lie about what seat you can sit in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was funny how Kevin's like, oh, the bag's supposed to go up here, and I know this fact and this fact about riding a plane because I'm here to explain how easy plane travel is. I thought it was so funny that this whole thing was like a 747 commercial. So the airline, is it a real airline? Like, I don't even remember what airline they listed, but I feel like they just wanted whatever airline was used to help make this episode was trying to make air travel seem easy and simple. Even a freaking Hulk can land a plane. We're going too far ahead, but you know what I mean? Like even it's like, hey, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, at first I was thinking as well that that along with him lying that it was actually his seat, I was thinking that he might have also been lying about it being his first time flying, but based on things later in the episode, I think it actually was his first time flying. I think that was the truth based on his reaction to different things happening.
His air sickness and him just like worrying about taking off. And I mean, there's every single airplane movie or TV episode that has ever existed. There's always somebody who's not good with air travel. And I'm just glad that, I mean, that has to happen, right?
Yeah. So
I don't remember that character's name at all. I just called him the shoe salesman.
I actually do have the name of that character. Because that was the next note I had because I thought it was a pretty funny name. So I wrote the guy who we didn't get a first name, but I wrote, so the guy who said it's his first time flying is named Mr. Leggett. I don't know why, but I just found that be a really funny name. Like I've never met anyone before that's where their name is Leggett.
And it's so close to having everything to do with his profession of being a shoe salesman. He's so close and yet so far. And I really enjoyed his line. The one thing I enjoyed about his character off the bat is when he said, and I'm in shoes. And then the mother's like, I can see that. It's like, no, I mean, I sell them. I was like, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Why the hell would someone just say they're in shoes? But anyway. So then Stephanie dumps a shit ton of drugs into a bunch of coffees and in no way looks like she's carrying how many.
I think actually possibly you may maybe it could be either I wrote it somehow wrote it out of order, or you're remembering it wrong of the order, because I think that where I mentioned earlier of the scene where you said that I skipped it, I think actually it was just really early on in the flight that she did that the putting drugs into those coffees.
I very likely have bopped around a lot.
Yeah. No,
It's
it's
very
all right.
possible.
It's all right. I'm just saying, I is as I think he very quickly right after meeting David, who's supposed to be sitting next to him, was when he went to go grab that coffee, I think. But the next thing I have, I think, is it is a I think might cut ahead a little bit. So after
See?
David found out that the guys what
It
was
had
his
some
name
vitamins in
again?
it.
Yeah,
Mr. McIntyre.
Mr. McIntyre. After he found out that he is fallen asleep and all this stuff, he goes up to the to try and find out what's going on, and I wrote out after he talked to that first flight attendant and about what's going on. I wrote, I feel like David should have been more suspicious of the situation after finding out those coffees were supposed to go to the crew and not and also this is a little bit farther as well, not let himself get trapped in that box. Like I feel like I immediately when Anya from the other flight attendant that those were supposed to go to the crew members, that should have been an immediate red flag. Because the other flight attendant had mentioned that it was for another passenger.
Was it? Did she mention that it was for another passenger or for a crew member?
So when the flight attendant came over to their seat for a freaking out because she saw that the guy had grabbed
Stephanie.
it. Stephanie mentioned that it was for other passenger, but when David went up and talked to the other flight attendant, and she said it was for a crew member. They were all for the crew members. That should have been an immediate red flag. That she lied about that, and thus after that, I feel like he shouldn't have taken her word for anything, and expected that when she went to go get the captain that something bad would happen. He should have expected that. I feel like
he seemed a little duped, and I think it was just one of those episodes where it's like it's in the script, even though this is a smart character, he has to get duped this far for the episode to work better, and it's like they couldn't have come up with a better way for it to happen. I just think it's funny that like if anyone else was seated next to Mr. McIntyre and they saw him pass out immediately after drinking this coffee that had medicine in it. Medicine. I know the listeners can't see my fingers. I'm doing quote bunnies.
Yeah.
Medicine. And his wife, he asks his wife about it. He's like, oh, he's clearly passed out. And she's like, oh, he's probably fine. This man can fall asleep anywhere, anytime. And she goes back to knitting. If anyone had listened to Mr. McIntyre's wife, who we can only assume his name, Mrs. McIntyre, this man might have died. And it's like, wow.
Yeah, and like honestly, when David walked away from the seat after checking his pulse, I was thinking he was dead.
Oh no!
I was thinking he was dead. I was like, wait, you're just leaving him? You're not going to say something that he's dead?
I absolutely get what you mean by David seeming a little more dull in this episode, a little slower as far as picking up on stuff, because even when the guy takes him down to the hall or whatever, and he goes into that lockbox and he looks and he's like, it's too dark in there. Maybe you try. He's like, well, if it's too dark in there, what do I got? Better eyes than a pilot? What are you talking about? It's too sure. He just goes, sure, I'll look. And then
there's no way that they have a flashlight on a plane.
Yeah, what about all those night flights? Not every plane comes with a skylight, and that, people can close their windows for comfort. Question for you.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you notice how much, and again, I don't know this, whether it's a fictional airline or not, how much the symbol of the airline looked like the Avengers A?
I did not notice that.
It's a red circle with the A built in down I think it's the right side, but it's just this, I was like, oh shit, this could have even passed as an early version of the Avengers A. And I was very shocked by that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a shit ton of things that an A can stand for when it comes to American Airlines of different types. Obviously, there's two A's right there, but it just looked to me like it was funny.
Mm-hmm. So the next thing I wrote was, I wrote, oh, so the captain and Samantha were after the Tut exhibit, which was mentioned to be moving in the newspaper at the beginning of the episode. And I wrote that I really liked that foreshadowing that they had.
Yeah. Earlier when I was thinking, oh, the Tut exhibit, this is going to be the Mummy episode. And then I see him like actually getting artifacts. It's like, that makes more sense. That was some good foreshadowing, though. I didn't enjoy that.
Yeah, definitely.
I also love any time any villain locks Banner up, not yet knowing who the hell they're dealing with. And they're just like, yeah, shut up in there. You'll be fine. I'm leaving. It's like, nope, you're going to try and push me out a plane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was fun.
So the next thing I have is pretty quick after Hulk's out. And I wrote, because I didn't understand at the time what it was, but we do know what it was now. I wrote, what the hell was that? It started spraying this red liquid when a bullet hit the wall of the plane, which we know now was hydraulic
the Kool-Aid
fluid.
line. Oh,
hydraulic fluid. Yeah. It was just really weird at the time. I was like, wait, what? That it looked like the walls started spraying blood. I was like, what?
I could have. Are you certain that it was not the Kool-Aid that everybody could drink because the passengers might have all had a glass of Kool-Aid? It was leaking all over the place. It felt like cherry flavored Kool-Aid, man.
Maybe, but I feel like Kool-Aid wouldn't have been needed for them to be able to fly the plane.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
But they may have used Kool-Aid actually in the production.
That's true. To simulate a hydraulic fluid. I get it now. Yeah, no, that I mean, it just made me want to drink a little bit of it. And heavens to Betsy, if I had some hydraulic fluid instead of Kool-Aid.
Oh no.
I think it as long as it's cherry flavored, I don't give a shit. It's fine. The blue stuff's gross. Anyways, continue.
So the next thing I wrote was, I feel like Hulk and the captain wouldn't have been able to stand so well with the airlock open. I feel like that was surprising how well they were able to stand.
Mm-hmm. That is some very early aircraft movie or TV show dynamics that physics just wasn't a part of how they could. No one was thinking when they made that. Because no one would question it back then. Now it's like, oh, you could easily debunk that by just Googling it. But back then it's like, oh yeah, nobody gets sucked out of an airplane when there's a giant door open. Piece of cake.
And also there was no issues with them shooting guns on the airplane, which definitely would have been a problem. And the Hulk actually did get pushed out of the plane, but he held on to the side of the plane. And I liked how while he was holding on to the plane, Hulk could still throw the captain backwards, he still has enough strength to be able to do that.
Well, he's the Hulk. I mean, it's not to
Yeah.
be his strength is not to be scoffed at.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then he did the ultimate chin up to safety, right
Yes.
back into the plane, which is a Hulk thing only, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wicked.
Definitely. And the next thing I wrote was, damn, Hulk caked.
I missed the Hulk caked moment. They have a great shot of his cake. My goodness.
Well, we did get to see a good bit of it when he was out on the side of the plane.
High altitude cake. What a dangerous snack.
Oh my god. I wrote that I like how after Hulk finishes the fight with the captain, he's actually able to start thinking about a bit about where he is. Like he starts looking around with this expression on his face, like, wait, where am I?
Yeah.
This is not place like anywhere I've ever been before.
Yeah, already we're seeing, and maybe there's been signs of it earlier, but we're already seeing a bit of an arc for Hulk to kind of be more self-aware. I feel like this episode, above many others, does that in droves. Like we see a lot of that coming up.
Yeah, definitely. The next thing I have was that I thought it was hilarious when Mr. Leggett was opening the door and Hulk's just being right behind it. And then he just opens it again and Hulk's just smiling.
You hear like a snarl, the typical Lou Ferrigno snarling sound is for no reason. Oh, I wrote that down as that was damn funny, and I'm so glad that they did it twice.
Good. Oh yeah, it's probably one of the only times there's ever been a quote unquote jump scare in this show, and I love that they did that.
I laughed out loud both times it happened too. I was like, holy
I did
shit.
too. It was so good. Oh man,
just the campiest joke possible, but it's just like, oh, opening the door to see a snarling Hulk, and then you know what? I gotta double check. Oh, okay. Yep, no, it's still there.
Yeah,
not hallucinating. You wouldn't believe me, he keeps saying.
Yeah, right before he walks back, we always see Hulk he's looking sad as he walks back down the stairs and sits down to turn back into Banner.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, and when I saw that, I was like, I feel like he's sad that this guy got scared by him.
I looked at it more as like the Hulk stays Hulk when he's mad, right? But like you can't get mad. There's no threat when you're faced with like this balding shoe salesman in a plaid coat. Like there's you can't get mad at that. You just look at him and go, "Wow, I'm not needed right now. I'll go sit down on these stairs." Like he just loses all hulking ability.
Oh man, like it just like makes me feel sorry for Hulk.
True, me too. He didn't even get shot in this episode, or did he?
Well, they tried to shoot at him with when the captain was trying to shoot him out the window or the hatch.
Oh, yes, yeah. He ended up spilling all that Kool-Aid.
Yes, Kool-Aid.
What a dick.
So I love, let's see, Mr. Leggett describing Hulk. He was like, he was green all over, even his hair.
Wow, mister, you're crazy.
Yeah. Oh man, it was so good.
I told you wouldn't believe me. I love those lines. So he's the biggest overactor in the episode by far was Mr. Leggett. And I wasn't mad about it.
I mean, is that really overreacting when after seeing this hulking figure there in a doorway?
I think he grew on me as a character. Like I didn't love him at first when he was hitting on the mom, and then when he had that moment, he was air sick, and he had that moment and ran to the back, and then didn't know what door to open. And then the snarling like Lou Ferrigno face to
Yeah.
face was pretty hilarious. So I think I was on Mr. Leggett's side at that point.
Yeah.
He'd suffered enough.
Yeah. Um, and I imagine that that scared the flight sickness right out of him.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't thinking about the flight anymore.
He's like, I'm on a plane? What?
Mhm.
I totally forgot. There's just a green man who's green all over. Yeah, that was great.
The next thing I wrote down is I love how as I think this was Samantha, the
The other
bad
flight
one of
attendant?
the flight attendants, and
Stephanie. Yeah.
Stephanie. Um, Stephanie, she's walking to the back of the plane, and we see Miss McIntyre. She's realizing that there's something wrong with Bob, her husband, and she just repeatedly is saying, Bob, please wake up.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. I'm so glad that all the issue is that you give somebody too much of that drug and they stay asleep longer. It wasn't like you give somebody too much of that drug and they just die. I mean, that would not make good primetime television in the 80s.
No.
So I was very happy to hear that.
Yeah. The next thing I wrote was when David asks Stephanie about the drug, and she tells him the name of it is carbatrol, and I like that that drug that they use to put the people to sleep is actually the name of a real drug. I feel like this show could have easily gone with some fake name, but they actually found a real drug for it, and I just like that they did that research.
Yeah, I think that he in a lot of his, like, obviously even the idea that he boarded a plane because he found another scientist that was dealing with the effects of, or the combination of, aggression with gamma radiation is a far-fetched thing. But it's like that doesn't mean that the science that they're doing and talking about isn't well thought about. And I feel like that's what Marvel does well in general, is they try to put a little bit more believability into their fluff talk. They could easily call it anything. Like, and sorry to say this about Star Wars, you could call Star Wars details anything you want, and that's what I want from Star Wars. Call it something else. But when it comes to Marvel stuff, it's like try to relate it to real life, unless it's magic or galactic. If it's on Earth, try to make it something we've heard of.
Definitely. Yeah. The next thing I wrote was that I think it's a kind of cool idea for the episode of David having to land the plane. And then and David, after calling the people at the office, they try to tell him that he should see if there's any pilots
Civilian,
on the plane. And Kevin comes to because he thinks he could just get some knowledge about doing it for becoming a pilot. And Mr. McIntyre was trying to reassure Kevin's mother by
Mr.
saying
Leggett. Mr. McIntyre is out cold, presumed dead.
Mr. Leggett. He said that Kevin's helping fly the plane. And even though he doesn't actually know that, but I just wrote out, hell yeah, Kevin's helping fly the plane. Like,
I loved everything about the whole, like, because that is what one of the most popular comedies of this time, of this, like, even just a couple years surrounding this episode of the Hulk, is the classic cult comedy Airplane. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not watched it, but I have
Is
definitely heard of it.
it's so silly and so awesome, but it's essentially the same idea. A regular Joe has to go up and help land this plane, and everybody else is passed out or sick. They're all sick with something.
Mhm.
But David Banner gets on the PA system, and it's so genius that he improvises something that won't alert or set everybody on panic
Yeah.
mode, and he just says, "This is your captain speaking. We'd love to talk to any other pilots who might be interested in the newest developments of the 747,"
Mhm.
and making sure not to mention how it's leaking cherry Kool-Aid, and that's very important. And then
Well, he
Kevin
didn't
comes
know
up.
that it was.
Oh, that's
He
true.
didn't.
That's true. He didn't see it. He didn't see the cherry Kool-Aid. The Hulk saw that, and he was probably like, thirsty, but he didn't drink, and he went upstairs and then got sad on the stairs. But maybe he should have had a drink of that Kool-Aid. He'd be a little happier. But the point is,
It's
the
something
man came
potentially
up
would
with
have happened to him.
and when Kevin came up there and he was like, yeah, I thought it was hilarious that Mr. Leggett was like, knowing Kevin, he's probably helping land the plane. I was like, you don't know Kevin. You've known Kevin for 10 minutes. But he finally like started clicking with his mom. And I was starting to root for Mr. Leggett at that point. I was like, you know what? You guys should set a dinner date. That'd be great. Yeah.
But, the next thing I wrote was I love how they did this, making Hulk have to come out to have the strength to move the wheel.
Yep.
Since it's David did have the strength to be able to do it. I think that was a genius way for them to make it so that the Hulk would have to come out, and not just that he's just getting frustrated by flying it down.
Yes. And a genius way to not only, and we'll talk about this more in a minute, but to have the Kevin part make sense too, because Kevin's kind of guiding him. And the fact that Mr. Leggett had described a guy who was green all over, Kevin had a second to process that this thing is on the plane. And he's like, oh, Mr. Leggett's not crazy. He did see a green thing.
Well,
and Kevin's not going to tell anybody, and no one's going to believe him. Right.
Well,
so
actually, Kevin doesn't see him as the Hulk until after Hulk lands the plane, because before David turned into the Hulk, he sends them both out of the cockpit.
He says, "Get out." You're right. Yeah, that's right. I totally forgot that. I was just thinking the air traffic controller and the more seasoned pilot who came to help them, and he's a famous actor too, and had just played a pilot on another series that same year. He came in and started guiding Banner on how to do it, and like even just Banner and before he fully turns into the Hulk, he keeps hearing, keep control, Banner, keep control, David, I can't remember, he's calling him Banner or Brown at that point.
I think he was just calling him David.
Okay, keep control, David, keep control. And the fact that he was calling him a name that he was familiar with, I think was very cool to see him kind of use the strength of Hulk while still being David for as much as he could.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah, the next thing I wrote down was like this. I think this might be the slowest transformation that they've ever had on the show, and I think it was kind of cool that we got to see Bill Bixby being in the Hulk makeup for an extended amount of time. I think that was really interesting. And once Hulk fully comes out, we see he's following command and has enough intelligence to know what the commands mean. And I like that because as this show goes on, we are learning a bit more about exactly how intelligent Hulk really is.
Yep. He's not just a big hulking fool. He has the brains of Banner, because they are, in the end, they do share the same vessel in many ways. So yeah.
The next thing I have was that after the plane lands, we see a Hulk running through it, and I think it was kind of funny that we see just one guy eyes cowboy hat just fly off when Hulk growls at him.
I like that. That just reminded me of Champ from Anchorman. I was like, he's on this plane. But I was quite surprised that the Hulk wandered the aisles and walked through the plane for everyone to see. But after a second, I was like, first of all, what news story would dickhead Jack McGee need in order to follow him to his next destination? But also, I was thinking they had a plane set. The crew, anyway, the production of the show had a plane for a set. Of course, they're gonna have the Hulk growl and snarl through a plane. That's good television. That's perfect television, John.
Definitely. I loved seeing Hulk just push through the fence, but I did kind of wish they just burst through it instead of pushing the fence over. But I guess this Hulk isn't that strong yet.
I think fences are just not that strong. That's what I blame the fence. I think a fence would more likely buckle from above than it would be super sturdy at the top and then him burst through. You know what I mean? It's not like a wooden wall where he would burst through like a Looney Tunes character. It's more so like, oh, there's nothing holding this together but more fence, and that's gonna,
yeah, that makes sense. I wrote that. Man, I really feel bad for David at the end of the episode when he tries calling the gamma expert in Chicago again, but he's already left for Europe. Like that was definitely one of those where where the Lonely Man music definitely was warranted.
Yes, I was going to ask you. I wrote in my notes, John, is the tragic music at the end starting to grow on you yet? Because it really reins things in at the end of the big triumph, hero episode. He gets to land a plane and save a bunch of people, and then there's no celebrating for Banner. Maybe everyone else, but he just has to kind of exist still.
Yeah.
So sad.
I think it depends on the episode. Some episodes it's better. Some episodes it does. I don't think it works as well. Yeah. And the next thing I wrote was I'm very surprised that this episode has no Jack McGee. I think that was that it's good that this episode didn't, because that would have definitely probably out of the most of any of the episodes it would have felt shoot in.
Yeah. They'd be like, how did he get on the flight in time?
Oh yeah.
Everything about flights is making them on time, getting on them on time,
And so that was really the last thing I had about the episode. But my final thoughts on the episode is that I thought this was a pretty fun episode. I love the concept of Hulk being on a plane. Because I don't think it's used very often. And even though we know he was gonna make it out alive, I think the stakes felt very real in this episode, and I think it's definitely one of the better episodes of the show.
Agreed. It was something new, and there was so many new things going on. Of course, yes, you've got the sinister couple that we might have seen before, but not to this degree, and not really in this scenario. Obviously, this is very different. And just the Hulk being a hero more publicly, but maybe not more publicly, but his save count is higher in this one. Yeah. And he helped land a freaking plane, and it's not something he's going to get credit for, but that's kind of what the Hulk and David Banner do, is hero things, but not for credit.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let me see. So I have my trivia from the episode. What we have from IMDb. So the episode features stock footage from the film Airport 1975, and then the next thing I have was that Howard Honig, who portrayed Mr. Leggett, also appears as a passenger in Airplane and Airplane 2, the sequel.
That's amazing. I gotta look for him now. Holy crap.
And then the next thing I had, so you mentioned earlier about the airline logo of how you thought it looked similar to the Avengers logo. There I have something actually about the airline logo that which I thought was really interesting. So apparently that stylized CA airline logo on the plane that's featured in this episode also turns up later in the episode Prometheus, and that time the logo is used for a brand of condensed soup in a blind woman's cupboard.
That blind woman's eating Avengers soup. That's a great connection.
Yeah. And then the next one, I think this is actually a really interesting bit of trivia. So Brandon Cruz appears as Kevin in this episode. And Cruz played Bill Bixby's son Eddie for several years on a TV show called The Courtship of Eddie's Father.
Oh my God.
And that show, The Courtship of Eddie's Father, is the Bill Bixby show that appears on a TV in the 2008 Incredible Hulk film.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that connection. That's brilliant. See, it's podcasts like this and investigative rewatching like this that is going to unleash those kind of things worldwide, and I'm excited for those tidbits to make it to more ears and more eyes and brains and Kool-Aid enthusiasts.
Kool-Aid enthusiast. Oh man. So
not gonna let this go.
So that's I wrote was the second Hulk out in the cockpit is one of the longest transformations that is seen in the entire series, as David is fighting to the change in order to remain intelligently in control of the landing situation. So apparently that's the reason why it took so long. And we have some goofs from IMDb. When Hulk jumps from the 747 plane and runs through the chain link fence at the end, one can see that stuntman Manny Perry is playing the Hulk and not Lou Ferrigno, apparently. And also when Hulk jumps down from the plane, the airbag that the stuntman lands on can be seen briefly at the very bottom of the screen.
Messed up. They messed up.
Oh
wow.
And then there's apparently a factual error for the fluid that was spewing from the ruptured pipe in the cargo hold is red, but apparently all Boeing commercial aircraft, along with most civilian and passenger aircraft, utilize Skydrol, a fire-resistant hydraulic fluid that is purple in color normally.
So grape Kool-Aid.
Grape Kool-Aid, yeah.
Interesting.
When Hulk is walking through the plane aisle and is touching the edge of the seats, one can see a green makeup smudges on the seats before he touches them. This reveals that this was filmed before and they had to go back and shoot it again.
That is one of my biggest like that's something that I feel like I should have been looking for all along, is any reshots where they've had to do something where he's touched. You'd think that like it really makes me worry about makeup in those days, because I can't imagine it was good for Lou. But
probably not.
And I mean, if you're gonna cover him in something that makes the makeup not rub off, I worry about that too. But the 70s and 80s, man, they did a lot of stuff just for the views.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so the answer to the trivia question from earlier was 60 years, and it actually was this month that it turned 60.
Oh. And by anniversary, I was thinking like, never mind. I was just, yeah. Damn, what did I say? 77? That was ridiculous.
You were closer with your first guess of, I think it was 57.
Damn it. Oh, well, whatever. I'll get the next one and I'll get the next one right. Damn it. I can see it. All
right. So, before we end off, is there any final things you'd like to say?
I'm stoked that we're doing these again. It was a long month without it. And I love that this one season of Hulk ends up having a huge impactful ending before even the finale. So I'm very excited to talk about episode 8.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So thank you for listening. And if you like this gamma analysis, please give a 5-star review. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode, so please let me know. And if you'd like to listen to more from me, please subscribe. Many more gamma analysis is coming from me, so keep on the lookout. This again is your host, Smash Trivia John, signing off.